Hey, let's start off with the thoughts, insights, and perspectives of Senator Bernie Sanders, the guy who knows so much about what's going on. He's right in the middle of it. The Independent from Vermont, our Brunch with Bernie hour. And by the way, Bernie will be taking your call starting in about 10 minutes. So, Bernie, welcome.
Good to be with you, Tom.
Always great to have you. So I don't know where to start.
Yeah, it's a busy period. Let me go over a few of the issues that I think many of the listeners may be concerned about. The revelations this week that it turns out that as a result of this disastrous USA Patriot Act, which I have consistently opposed from its inception, the government now has a very, very broad program which is collecting data essentially on the hundreds of millions of Americans, so that if you have a telephone and you're making calls, you can assume that there is a database where those calls, when you made those calls, the phone number you called is on a huge, huge, huge database. That does not mean that anyone is looking at it at the moment. Doesn't mean that anyone is monitoring the calls, because they're not. But it does mean that database is there. And here's what the issue is. I think, Tom, it is not a complicated issue at all. I happen to believe that terrorism is a serious issue. There are people out there who want to do us harm. We saw that at the Boston Marathon. That's real stuff, and we want to be vigorous in opposing that, in destroying any plots that may be against our country. But at the same time, we live in a democratic society. We pride ourselves on liberty, on freedom. That's what we advertise to the whole world. And when the United States government now has phone records and records in terms of how you access websites, etc., on hundreds of millions of Americans, 99.9999, go on with the nines, have nothing to do with terrorism, there is something wrong. There is simply something wrong. That's not what freedom is about. That's Orwellian. And I don't accept the excuses from the administration. And they have inherited and expanded these programs from the Bush administration. We expected better from the Obama people. That's the only way you can address the issues of terrorism. So we want what it gets down to is whether or not you need to have records on everybody, or whether or not you do good law enforcement if there is reason to believe that somebody is involved in terrorism. We want our law enforcement people to be able to go after them. And the way you do that is you go to what's called a FISA judge or an independent judge, and you say, Judge, we have reason to believe, here's the reasoning A, B, C, and D. If they make a case about probable cause, the court will say, you go get them. But if they don't make the cause, if somebody simply was participating in a demonstration or wrote a letter to the editor, that's not a probable cause to my mind. In any case, you start with the individual who you suspect, not with everybody in America. So that is the key issue there. And I worry about this a whole lot. And again, I think the problems stem from the passage of the Patriot Act and a very, very broad interpretation by the Bush and Obama administration of what they can do. So that's one issue that's out there that's very important. I intend to work with other members of the Senate and the House to see how we can very, very significantly tighten that up and end this type of abuse. Second issue out there, big issue, is immigration. That will probably be coming before the Senate on Monday night or Tuesday. And the issue there is, in my view at least, this is an issue long overdue. It's something we should deal with, I believe, in a path to citizenship for undocumented people in this country. I believe in the DREAM Act. I believe that we need legislation to protect farm workers. We have that issue here in Vermont. It's certainly all over the country. I remember being with tomato workers in Immokalee, Florida a few years ago, probably the most exploited workers in America. They have no rights, and we need to give them legal status. Now, my concern, where I have very strong concerns, is that in the midst of a moment when we have such high unemployment in this country, and real unemployment is not 7.5%, it is much closer to 14% if you include people who have given up looking for work and people who are working part-time when they want to work full-time. I just have my doubts as to whether or not through these guest worker programs, the H-1B program, the H-2B program, you really want to bring hundreds of thousands of new guest workers into this country to compete with people who are already not making, in many cases, a living wage or not finding a job at all. So really, do we need people to come from Eastern Europe to serve as lifeguards or to serve as ski instructors in America or to serve as front desk people or to serve as cooks or waitresses or waiters when you have kids in this country who need those summer jobs and jobs in order to pay for college? I have my doubts about that. So it's a complicated issue, but I'm supportive of much of what's in the bill. I want to be supportive of the whole thing, and in the coming weeks we're going to work on some of these guest worker provisions. Other issues that are out there continue to be the budget, the impact that sequestration is having on seniors and on kids. We have lost some 70,000 slots for Head Start kids at a time when we need to substantially increase the number of early childhood education programs. We're losing them. We have a lot of older Americans out there, senior citizens, who are dependent on the Meals on Wheels program in order to get a decent meal every day, have somebody visit them. We've cut back on that substantially. So I'm the chairman of the subcommittee that deals with the Older Americans Act and Meals on Wheels, and we have put together, I think, pretty good legislation which expands that program, not cuts it back, and protects seniors in the process. In terms of Social Security, which you and I have talked about many, many times, there was a study that just came out, didn't surprise me, from the Economic Policy Institute, making the point that any cuts in Social Security would be devastating to many, many folks in our country, older people, who today are struggling to keep their heads above water economically, having a hard time paying for food or prescription drugs or heating their homes. So we're going to continue our effort to oppose the so-called chain CPI, strongly supported by Republicans, sadly supported by the President. I think, frankly, between you and me, at least short-term, we're going to win this fight. Because at the end of the day, while it may make a good talking point in Washington, D.C., when you talk to billionaires and Wall Street guys about how you got to cut Social Security, when you go out to the people back home, very few people think that that is a good idea. They don't think it's a good idea to cut benefits for disabled veterans as well. So that's an issue where I think short-term we have made some good progress. We've got to keep that fight up. And in terms of the budget, which is, of course, what sequestration is about, the issue remains very, very simple. And that is at a time when we have growing income and wealth inequality in America, at a time when the middle class is disappearing, we've got 46 million people living in poverty, we have got to have a budget which addresses the real needs of the American people and does not simply cut, and cut. What our Republican friends in the House want to do is continue their assault against Medicare and Medicaid, major cuts, basically creating a whole new approach toward Medicare, cutting back on education, cutting back on nutrition. Right now, in Vermont and around this country, you got millions of young people who are really heavily burdened with these college debts. In Vermont, it's about, the average graduate is $28,000. Nationally, it's about $25,000. It's an issue that we have got to address. One way you don't address it is by cutting Pell Grants and other federal aid to higher education.
It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders taking your calls in our national town hall meeting. Brunch with Bernie, right here on the Thom Hartmann Program. 15 minutes past the hour. Be sure to check out Bernie's website at sanders.senate.gov.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And, of course, you can drop into our free live chat room, blogs, message boards, all kinds of cool stuff at thomhartmann.com. However you spell it, we'll get you there. Welcome back. Senator Sanders on the line with us, and Rose in Denver, Pennsylvania, watching us on Free Speech TV on the Dish satellite TV system. Rose, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes, Senator Sanders, I would like to know, as an American citizen, how do we stop the American terrorism with people entering into our home, and just as everything that is known with your computer and phone interception and interference?
Well, I think, Rose, what you do is make your outrage known to your representatives here from Colorado. Mark Udall has been doing a good job on this. He's on the Intelligence Committee. But here's what the issue is. There are some people who say, which is true, that terrorism is a serious issue and we've got to deal with it. And some of those people are essentially willing to say that I really don't care what the government does in terms of infringements on civil liberties, so long as we can stop terrorism. And I think that is a very dangerous attitude. I happen to believe that we can be effective in fighting terrorism and do it within constitutional limits, protecting our basic rights. So I think you've got to stand up and say, yep, I want to combat terrorism, but I don't want to have the government knowing about every telephone call that I make, every website that I access on the computer. That's not what I think America is about. Get that word out there. I think most of the American people, not all, there are a whole lot of people, I'll tell you, I run into them. Polling shows this. There are people who say, you know what, I'm not a terrorist. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I really don't care what the government does. They can check me out till the cows come home. That's fine with me. And, I think that's a minority position, but we have got to get our position out, which means, in practical terms, basically revising the USA Patriot Act and several of the important provisions in it, including Section 215.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of those same people, I was debating this with Steve Malzberg, a conservative talk show host, the other day. He said, I've got nothing to fear from the government. I got nothing to hide from the government. And I said, then why, when your 501c3 applies for nonprofit status to the government and you get, 3 pages of questions, you're all upset? And he just, went off. I mean, it's like...
it's a funny thing. And many of these, you're right. And I think some of the conservatives, and I've talked to them, are really torn on this thing. On one hand, they tell you how terrible the federal government is. Get the government out of our lives. I don't want government health care and Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. Oh, but by the way, I don't have a problem with the government knowing about every telephone call made by every American. It's fairly inconsistent. Yeah. But I think the bottom line here is, as a nation, we have to make that decision. Do you want to live in a society where the government has so much information about you? I think most people don't. But we've got to rally the folks on this issue and make it clear to the Obama administration that we need changes in the Patriot Act.
Yeah, I think anonymity and safety are pretty important things. We're going to hit the break here in just about 15 seconds. So, this do you? By the way,
there are some good people out there who have been fighting this fight.
Mm-hmm.
But the American people clearly have got to get involved. And I honestly believe, Tom, that we can be effective in fighting terrorism. This is not an either-or.
Right.
This is doing good law enforcement, fighting terrorism, or protecting the constitutional rights of the American people.
Yeah, we need to revive the church committee, perhaps? I don't know. Anyhow, Senator Bernie Sanders is with us. We'll be right back with more of your questions for Senator Sanders in our National Town Hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie, after this. Welcome back to the place where we dare to ask, is Walmart a person? And we dare to say, no, don't think so. Not a chance. It's the Thom Hartmann Program. Our Brunch with Bernie Hour. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line. Kelly in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Thank you, Tom. Senator Sanders, my question for you is, why is there no conflict of interest law in Congress?
There is a conflict of interest law. Kelly, do you want to be more specific on that?
Well, Lawrence O'Donnell the other night had a good piece on that I thought was interesting because he showed a Republican House member that got on the farm.
Right. I'm familiar with that case. Right, a guy who's getting subsidies who.
Yeah, $3.5 million, and then he talks about holding the purse strings of Congress. Well, what? Huh?
Well, that is a good point. I think. No, that's a fair question. I think too often that ends up falling on the individual who should conflict himself out of those decisions. Somebody should get up there and say, look, I'm involved in this program. I benefit from this program. I'm not going to vote on this issue. And you will find members doing that. Apparently, this fellow in the House chose not to do that. I think when we look at the Congress, however, and that you've raised a good point, fair point, the most important point, never to forget about it, and it's easy to get sidetracked, is the degree to which Congress is dominated by big money, by campaign contributions, and by lobbyists. That is the overwhelming issue as to why we're not addressing the high unemployment rate, why we're not addressing the issue of global warming, why we're not effectively addressing health care and joining the entire rest of the developed world in creating a national health care system. So there are a lot of issues. You could criticize Congress rightfully for hour after hour. The basic issue is Congress addressing the issues and the needs of ordinary Americans, or are they protecting the interests of the wealthy and large corporations? And the answer is the latter. They are protecting the interests of big money, and we got to figure out how we change that dynamic.
Ashes in Palatine, Illinois, listening to WCPT. You're on the air, Senator Sanders.
Hi, Senator Sanders. Hi, Tom. Excellent show. I had a question. Senator Sanders, I read in my local newspaper, they carry AP articles all the time, and the AP reporter stated in his article that the change CPI only applies to senior citizens who earn over $100,000 a year. And I read that's what he reported in his article. I want to know, is that true or not?
No, it's absolutely untrue. And I can't believe, I hope that wasn't an AP reporter. No, that's absolutely untrue. It applies to everybody. What I think there may be a few exceptions for the poorest of the poor, and then in later years for people who are very, very, very old might not be impacted. No, but the change CPI is if you are living on $15,000 or $20,000 a year, or $30,000 a year, and you're getting all or three-quarters or half of your income from Social Security, the change CPI will impact you. Now, what it will do is if it were passed tomorrow, it's not going to be, and hopefully it never will be passed, but if it was passed tomorrow and you're 65, what it would mean is you would get a reduction in your benefits because we would make stingier the cost of living adjustments every single year. If you were 65 today, by the time you were 75, it would mean that you would get $650 a year less in Social Security benefits, which, if you're trying to get by on $15,000 or $20,000 a year, is a lot of money. It means the difference between whether you're going to stay warm or not stay warm in the winter, buy the prescription drugs you need, and so forth and so on. So this, if you read to the contrary, it's just not true. This applies to virtually everybody, and certainly average recipients of Social Security, and we're going to do everything we can to defeat that proposal.
Chase in Santa Cruz, California, watching on our website over TomHartmann.com. You're on the air, Senator Sanders.
Hi. Yeah, I was wondering, Senator Sanders, how important do you feel foreign aid is as a humane strategy to decrease the unskilled diaspora of developing nations as it relates to their immigration into the United States?
Well, that's a complicated question because you're touching on a number of issues. Do I believe foreign aid is important? I do. I think wealthier nations, not just the United States, but other wealthy nations, have the obligation to make sure that children, for example, in Africa, are not dying from treatable illnesses where medicine can cost 50 cents a day and keep kids alive. Do I think we should be involved in that? I do believe so. I think, second of all, it's a good investment. Because when the United States does the right thing, and often we do, when we do things preventing AIDS, for example, and we work with poor people to give them a little bit of money in terms of small loans to start businesses, or help them out with agriculture. The political gains are very significant. People say, well, the United States is on my side. And it counters, I think, some of the extreme groups who want to move toward fundamentalist type governments. So, I do believe that we should be involved from a moral point of view and both from a political point of view. I think it often makes sense if we do it the right way.
Okay. And, you 20 seconds. Any thoughts on where we're going with foreign aid, Bernie? Most Americans think it's so much.
Friends, again, believe in cutting virtually every program in America, and there's a lot of pressure. I think people don't understand that foreign aid is a relatively small program. People think it's some huge program. It is not. And in fact, compared to many other countries, we are per capita far less generous.
Senator Bernie Sanders with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Sanders taking your calls in our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie, on the Thom Hartmann Program. We'll be back with more of your calls for Senator Sanders right after this. Be sure to check out his website. They update the news there several times a day. You've got the Bernie Buzz, great newsletter. It keeps you up to date on what's going on.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
You can find it all over at sanders.senate.gov. 27 minutes past the hour. Welcome back, 34 minutes past the hour. Just a quick FYI, today is a UN Day. We're going to be doing the second and third hours of our program live by ISDN with Talk Radio News Service from the United Nations ambassador. The ambassador from Canada is going to be with us. The ambassador from Norway is going to be with us. The spokesperson, senior media advisor to UNICEF is going to drop by. And the director of the UN Women's Program is going to be with us. So just quick heads up. In addition to Anything Goes Friday. But right now it's Brunch with Bernie. Senator Bernie Sanders with us, taking your questions and answering your calls. And Don in Norman, Oklahoma, you are on the air with Senator Sanders. Don?
Yes, this is Don. I just want to know what we can do as citizens to try to give our children and grandchildren an opportunity to achieve some type of education and economic opportunity.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Don. I mean, that is clearly one of the great questions on the minds of millions of Americans. It is no great secret that in the last 20 or 30 years, and certainly accelerated by the Wall Street recession of 2008, that we're seeing a middle class in decline, and for the first time probably in the modern history of America, unless we change it, our kids are going to have a lower standard of living than we do, and that is not acceptable. So I think, Don, I mean, you've raised a whole series of questions, but I think for a start, we need to create a jobs program in this country that puts millions of people back to work, and God only knows there's more than enough work to be done from Oklahoma to Vermont, and that is rebuilding crumbling bridges and roads, creating a rail system fit for the 21st century, creating the kinds of water systems and environmental systems that we need. We also have to focus on transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel. I know many of my Republican friends don't agree, but the reality is that global warming is real. It's man-made, largely man-made. It is already causing severe damage, and we have got to help lead the world in cutting greenhouse gas emissions. And when you do that, Don, you also create jobs. But it's not only creating jobs, as important as that is, and rebuilding the middle class. It is also important, vitally important, to make sure that our kids have a quality education. And certainly, right now, for many working class families, the cost of college is just much, much too high. Kids are graduating $25,000 in debt on average, and sometimes if you're a lower income family, it could be double that. And that's just, it's not only wrong, it means that kids just go out into their adult life with this tremendous burden, financial burden on their backs. So we have to figure out how we make college affordable. Right now, by the way, by the end of July, college interest rates on the Stafford loan will double from 3.4 to 6.8 unless Congress acts. I certainly hope and expect that Congress will. But longer term, we've got to make sure that we make college education affordable. A few weeks ago, I had the ambassador from Denmark coming to Vermont. In that country, college education is free. It doesn't come out of the pocket of an individual because they believe it's important that their kids, regardless of income, be able to get the best education they can, all the way up to medical school. We have got to appreciate how important education is if we're going to compete in a global economy. So that's a little bit of what we've got to do, I think, Don.
Leah Marie in Tucumcari, New Mexico. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi. The previous caller actually started the question that I was interested in, so I'm just going to try to ask it again. Senator Sanders, if you were king of the world, how would you go about starting rural economic development? You were talking about our sagging infrastructure. If you were king of the world, how would you try on a nuts and bolts level to get this started?
Okay. Thank you very much, Leah, for asking me. It's a lot of fun to be thinking about that. So you made me just going from a mere senator to king of the world, and I appreciate that. So let me tell you what I would do as king of the world. First of all, I would create a fair and just tax system which says to the wealthy and large corporations they're going to have to start paying their fair share of taxes. If you do that, you can bring in substantial amounts of revenue. It could protect the most vulnerable people in this country, but it will also give us the money to invest in our country. As I indicated earlier, in Vermont, all over this country, we have huge infrastructure problems, roads in bad shape, bridges crumbling, water systems in terrible shape, needing a lot of investment. We have a rail system which is falling way behind Europe, Japan, even China. So we can invest in making our country more productive. Roads and bridges and rail do not get better by themselves. You have to invest in them. You create a whole lot of jobs at all levels, from scientists to engineers down to blue-collar construction workers. That could be a real shot in the arm in terms of creating jobs short-term and also making our country more productive. Also, in terms of rural America, there are places in the state of Vermont today, and we're working hard on this, that we're probably leading the country, where you can't get cell phone service, where you can't get high-quality broadband. So all over rural America, we want to make sure that people have access to the Internet. Small businesses can be established in small rural communities. We want to make sure that we're protecting family-based agriculture. We want to make sure that we are transforming our energy system. Farmers around the country today are beginning to make significant sums of money from hosting wind turbines, solar fields, and we've got to work on that. So I think there are a number of short-term approaches that can create a whole lot of jobs, lower unemployment, lower our deficit, and those are just some of the things, Leah Marie, that I would propose.
Sam in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Okay. Hey there, Professor Hartman.
Sam, you're back from your cancer surgery. I hope you're well.
Hey, I am. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. I'm better.
Great. You're on the air with Senator Sanders. Sam?
Yes, sir. Senator Sanders, I want to thank you very much for being an independent party.
Sam, you got to be listening to your telephone, not your TV. There's a delay.
Okay. All right, my question for Senator is, what is austerity, and are we headed that way here in America?
Okay, Sam, thank you very much. That's a very good question. Here's the issue, and it's a funny, Sam asked a very fundamental question, whose answer I thought had been well understood for the last 70 or 80 years. And we're back to the 1932 presidential election between Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Herbert Hoover. And the approach that Hoover advocated to get the economy moving out of the terrible depression that they were in was austerity, if you like, was cutting federal spending, balancing the budget. And what Roosevelt ended up doing was to saying, no, we've got to invest in the American people. We've got to put people back to work at a time when this country had 20-25% unemployment. So you had all kinds of projects out there, the CCC. You had all kinds of infrastructure projects and projects that ended up putting millions of people back to work and helping us get out of that Great Depression. I had thought that issue had been resolved, but it turns out I was wrong, that in recent years we still have economists, conservative economists, who think the best way out of recession is to cut. And that's precisely what our Republican friends in the Senate are doing, in the House and certainly in the Senate want to do. And that is, instead of investing in job creation and addressing the serious problems facing our country, and I just rattled off what I thought some of them were with infrastructure and energy, what these guys want to do is to cut back on education, cut back on health care, cut back on infrastructure, and move us aggressively toward less and less spending at a time when we have such high unemployment. We are seeing that debate taking place all over the world. And I think those countries, and I think the IMF recently came out with a report, if I'm not mistaken, that their policies towards Spain were wrong, that they pushed too much austerity, which resulted in unemployment going up. So I do not believe that when the middle class is disappearing, when you have millions of people who are really hurting and they're struggling to stay alive economically, you don't tell those people who are going to make your life even more difficult. What you do is you invest in those people, you invest in this country, you create jobs, you generate more tax revenue, and you move us out of the high unemployment time that we're in.
Yeah, Bernie, just 20 seconds to our break. Do you see any of that coming out of this legislature?
Well, I think we are winning, if you like, the political debate. But I think our Republican friends remain absolutely adamant in the desire to give more tax breaks to the wealthy and large corporations. And they will kind of put that within some kind of philosophical or economic idea that if you give tax breaks to the rich, it makes everybody happy. The answer is a lot of these campaign contributions for them come from the rich. That's what the rich want, and that's what they're doing.
Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us, answering your questions in our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie, here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Check out Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov. You can sign up for his newsletter, the Bernie Buzz.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And you can check out our new iPhone and iPad app that's been upgraded for the new Retina display. That's free over at the App Store or over at thomhartmann.com. Welcome back, and whoops, here we go. Mark, you're on the air with Senator Sanders in Chico, California, watching Free Speech TV.
Hello?
Yes, Mark, you're on the air with the Senator.
Senator Sanders, I see people out on the streets like in Italy. They pack the streets. I mean, they get out there and demonstrate when something's going on. And if we even got 5 or 10% of the people demonstrating to change the Patriot Act and taxes and the tax structures, do you think that could change Congress?
The answer, Mark, is absolutely. And you raised, again, a very, very important issue. Let's be honest about it. Again, I mentioned I had the ambassador from Denmark was here a few weeks ago. He mentioned to me that in Denmark, some 89% of the people voted in their last election. We have been doing better in recent years. We're a little bit over 60%. So to answer your question, Mark, when people are involved in the political process, that means when they vote in high numbers when they get involved in a particular issue, whether it's tax reform and the need to have the wealthy and large corporations start paying their fair share of taxes, whether it's health care and the need for the United States to join the rest of the industrialized world and guarantee health care as a right of citizenship, whether it is global warming and the need for us to move away from fossil fuel. When people become involved in large numbers, of course the Congress listens, because it would be self-destructive not to listen. What Congress, or I shouldn't say Congress, but what some members of the Congress hope is that people don't know anything, that they don't vote, they don't participate, and that you can then spend your time just worrying about the wealthy and the powerful who make campaign contributions to you. And then you don't have to worry about anyone knowing that you're going to cut Social Security, or whether you're going to cut nutrition programs, or you're going to give more tax breaks to the rich. The less people know, the better it is in that instance. So to the degree that we can create a vigorous, robust democracy where people know what's going on, where they're holding their politicians accountable, where they're prepared to get out in the streets and demonstrate if they're upset about something, of course that will change the Congress and create a more democratic, with a small d, society where Congress begins to listen to ordinary people rather than just the wealthy and the powerful. Right now, with so many people not voting, so many people not participating, not paying attention, Congress will listen to the people who feed them, and that is the big money interests. And clearly Citizens United has made a bad situation worse, allowing corporations and wealthy to contribute endless amounts of money into the political process. So you asked a great question, Mark, and the answer is absolutely, positively yes. People have got to be involved, and when necessary, get out into the streets.
It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders taking your calls. We'll be back in just a moment with more of Senator Sanders. Be sure to check out his website at sanders.senate.gov. And more with Bernie right after this. Back to the place where despair is not an option. The Thom Hartmann Program. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Steve in Yorba Linda, California. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello, Thom Hartmann. Thank you for your program. Senator Sanders, thank you for your great work. I have a question that kind of centers around the idea of maybe it's time to stop nation building in China. Some people might think that's a weird comment, but for decades we've been doing that. And one example is Johnson Controls has 60 factories in China. That's just one major corporation in the United States. My question is, what can the senators do about changing the debate around this economy that's suffering right now and start bringing it to focus on corporate policy and practice?
Steve, great question. I was in China a number of years ago, and it is just astounding. When I was there, you saw just an enormous amount of construction, new factories, and many of them were American or European factories. So what we have seen, Steve, in the last 10 or so years in this country is the loss of about 50,000 or more factories, millions of decent-paying jobs, and a number of those companies have moved to China and other low-wage countries. Now, this has everything in the world to do with our disastrous trade policy, and in this case, permanent normal trade relations with China, which said to companies, hey, no problem. You want to shut down in America, you want to move to China, you want to pay people there 50 cents a buck an hour, that's great, and those products will come back into America. And corporate America that pushed that policy said, great, that's what we want, that's what we'll do, and that's what they did. Now, how do you change that? You change that through trade policy. Here you have an instance, again, when I talked a moment ago about the power of big money in America. In this case, it doesn't matter really whether it's the Democratic leadership or Obama or the Republican leadership and George W. Bush. There is now been accepted by the leadership of both parties that unfettered free trade is a good thing for America. In fact, it's a disaster. It has cost us millions of decent-paying jobs. It has lowered wages in America. So to answer Steve's question, I think you need to change the trade policy. And I got to tell you, I've never voted for one of these trade bills. You have to demand that corporate America start reinvesting in this country, and instead of building factories in China, start building them in the United States of America.
Gus in New York City, listening to WWRL. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi there. I'm a school teacher, and I've been teaching for 6 years now in the classroom every day, and I see the devastating results of standardized tests on my kids. They hate school, and the tests this year have been worse than ever because last year they expanded it from 4 days to 6 days. Now, that doesn't count the grading where the teacher is taken out of the classroom, and we have subs for another 3 to 5 days. And then if you include the practice tests and all the drilling, we're losing weeks and weeks of learning time because of these standardized tests. So I wanted to ask the senator, because there's going to be a rally tomorrow against Governor Cuomo up in Albany by the teachers. I wanted to ask Senator Sanders if the repeal of No Child Left Behind is on the horizon.
The answer is yes and no. The answer is, in fact, that the ESEA, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, is coming up, and I'm on the committee that deals with it. I believe we start discussing it in the committee very shortly, next week or the following week. So, in a sense, it is. I think, at least in the Senate, we have the votes to get rid of some of the more onerous provisions in No Child Left Behind, and I think Gus did a good job in describing some of the results of that. In my view, first of all, I want to thank Gus and all of the other teachers in America. It's so easy, and it happens so often that we beat up on educators who in many instances, I know in Vermont and around the country, are working really, really hard and effectively with kids, and sometimes under very difficult circumstances where kids come to school hungry and in some cases from dysfunctional families and all kinds of problems. So I want to thank the teachers of this country for doing, by and large, a very, very good job. I think we need educational reform, but not the kind of reform that was in No Child Left Behind. I think we need educational reform to give teachers the flexibility to make school exciting and interesting for kids, not to cut back on the arts or on athletics or cultural activities, not to cut back on those things that make kids excited and want to come to school. I think we have to do a much, much, much better job in terms of child care and preschool education, both for working families and for the children and their ability to do well as soon as they get into school. I think we have to be talking about summer programs. I know in Vermont, and I'm sure many other parts of the country, we have really great summer programs for kids connected to the schools where kids are both getting recreational activity as well as continued education. I think we have to make it clear to every kid in this country, if you come from a low-income family, a working-class family, you know what? You can go to college. College will be available for you if you do your work. I'm afraid many kids get turned off early on because they know they ain't going to be able to afford to go to college. So there are a lot of things that we have to do, but certainly No Child Left Behind and teaching for the test, which Gus is talking about, is the wrong approach. So, Gus, we're working on it. As you know, it's a tough climate in Washington right now, but we'll do our best to get rid of some of the onerous provisions of No Child Left Behind.
Bernie, just a little less than a minute to wrap the hour. Thoughts on the week ahead?
Well, I think Mark a few minutes ago from California, asked the real question that we have to be asking ourselves is how do we create a more democratic society? How do we get more people involved in the political process, especially those people who are already bearing the brunt of bad public policy? If you're unemployed, if you're making $8 or $9 or $10 an hour, if you don't have health insurance, you should be actively involved in the political process. And that's we have to figure out how to make that happen.
Bernie, thanks so much once again this week for being with us.
My pleasure. Take care, Tom.
Always an honor.